Let's talk about something that's often misunderstood, surrounded by myths, and rarely explained clearly: vaginal depth and size. You've probably heard exaggerated claims, confusing comparisons, or even felt unsure about what's normal. But today, we're cutting through all of that with real medical insight, clear facts, and zero judgment. Because here's the truth: your body is not designed to fit unrealistic expectations, it's designed to function beautifully, intelligently, and uniquely. So, how deep is the vagina, really? What if everything you've been told about your body is based on unrealistic expectations? What if the problem was never your body but the standards you were measuring it against? Here's something most people don't realize: your body was never designed to fit into a fixed mold. It was designed to adapt, respond, and adjust in ways that are incredibly intelligent and precise. Think about this: your body changes every single day without you even noticing. Your muscles tighten and relax, your hormones shift, your tissues respond to different situations. The human body is not static, it's dynamic. And when it comes to intimate anatomy, this adaptability becomes even more powerful. The vaginal canal, for example, is not a rigid structure with a fixed size. It's made of elastic muscular tissue that can expand and contract based on need. During moments of relaxation or arousal, it naturally adjusts, lengthening, widening, and accommodating comfortably. This isn't a flaw or something unusual. This is exactly how it's supposed to work. But here's where many people get stuck. They compare themselves to exaggerated ideas, often shaped by media, misinformation, or unrealistic conversations. That comparison creates doubt. It makes people question whether they are enough or normal. But the truth is, those comparisons ignore the most important fact: the body is built for function, not for fitting into a narrow definition of perfection. Ask yourself this: why would a system as complex as the human body be designed to fail at something so natural? It wouldn't. Every part of your anatomy has a purpose. Every response your body gives is part of a larger, well-coordinated system working to support you. Adaptability is not just physical, it's also protective. The body adjusts to reduce discomfort, to increase ease, and to maintain balance. It learns, it responds, it evolves, and when you understand this, something shifts in your mindset. You stop seeing your body as something to judge and you start seeing it as something to trust. Another important layer to this is how closely adaptability is linked to comfort and awareness. When the body feels safe and relaxed, it performs at its best. Tension, stress, or pressure can interfere with that natural adaptability. So it's not about forcing the body to meet expectations, it's about creating the right conditions for it to function the way it was designed to. And here's a powerful truth: no two bodies are exactly the same, yet they all follow the same principle of adaptability. That means variation is normal. Differences are expected, and none of it makes one person better or worse than another. The moment you stop trying to fit your body into someone else's standard is the moment you start understanding its true strength. Because your body doesn't need to change to be acceptable, it already knows exactly what to do. What if the insecurity you feel isn't coming from your body, but from what you don't fully understand yet? What if confidence isn't something you're born with, but something you build through clarity? Here's a powerful shift. Confidence doesn't come from comparing yourself to others, it comes from knowing how your body actually works. Asterisk, asterisk, think about how comparison starts. It usually begins with vague information, half-truths, or exaggerated ideas. You hear something, you see something, and suddenly you're measuring yourself against it. But here's the problem: most of those comparisons are based on incomplete or inaccurate knowledge. And when you compare yourself to something that isn't even real or medically grounded, you're setting yourself up for doubt. Now imagine replacing that confusion with facts, real evidence-based understanding. When you learn what's actually normal, how the body functions, and why it behaves the way it does, something changes internally. That constant questioning, is this okay? Am I normal? Starts to disappear. Because knowledge does something comparison never can. It gives you context. For example, many people worry about size, variation, or how their body responds in different situations. But when you understand that the body is naturally variable, that it changes with hormones, mood, and environment, those worries lose their power. You stop seeing differences as flaws and start recognizing them as normal biological variation. Here's a question worth asking. How can you feel confident about something you've never been properly taught? You can't. That's why education matters so much. Not surface level information, but real understanding. The kind that explains not just what happens, but why it happens. Confidence built on comparison is fragile. It depends on constantly measuring yourself against others, and that standard keeps changing. One moment you feel okay, the next moment you don't, but confidence built on knowledge is stable. It doesn't shift based on someone else's opinion or an unrealistic image. It stays grounded because it's based on truth. Another important piece is this: knowledge helps you separate myths from reality. There are countless misconceptions about the body, especially when it comes to intimate health. Without accurate information, those myths can shape how you see yourself. But once you learn the facts, those myths lose their influence. And something else happens when you gain knowledge. You become more aware of your own body. You start to notice patterns, responses, and signals. That awareness builds a sense of control. And with control comes confidence. Instead of asking, do I measure up? The question becomes, do I understand what's happening in my body? That shift is powerful. It moves your focus away from external validation and brings it back to internal understanding. Because at the end of the day, comparison keeps you stuck in doubt, but knowledge moves you toward clarity. What if everything you've been told about satisfaction is missing the most important pieces? What if the focus on size has distracted you from what actually creates comfort and connection? It's easy to assume that physical attributes alone determine the quality of an intimate experience, but that belief oversimplifies something far more complex and deeply human. Here's the reality: the body doesn't respond best to extremes, it responds best to understanding, communication, and a sense of ease. When people fixate only on size, they overlook how the body actually experiences comfort. The nervous system, the muscles, and the mind all work together, and if even one of those elements is out of sync, the experience changes completely. Think about this: your body is designed to respond to signals. When there's relaxation, trust, and proper stimulation, the body adjusts naturally. Muscles soften, blood flow increases, and sensitivity becomes more balanced. But when there's tension, anxiety, or pressure to perform, the body does the opposite. It tightens, becomes less responsive, and comfort decreases. So the question becomes, is size really the deciding factor, or is it how the body is engaged and understood? Another important factor is communication. Without it, even the best physical compatibility can feel disconnected. Everyone's body is slightly different. What feels comfortable or pleasurable for one person may not be the same for another. That's why communication isn't optional, it's essential. It allows both people to understand boundaries, preferences, and what actually works in real time. And here's something many people overlook: connection is not just physical, it's psychological. The brain plays a major role in how the body experiences sensation. When someone feels safe, respected, and emotionally present, the body is far more likely to respond positively. Without that connection, even ideal physical conditions can feel unsatisfying. Now consider the role of awareness. When you understand your own body, how it responds, what it needs, what creates comfort, you're in a much stronger position. You're not relying on assumptions or external standards. You're working with real personal knowledge. That awareness allows for better communication and a more comfortable experience overall. There's also a misconception that more automatically means better, but in reality, the body has limits, and pushing beyond comfort doesn't enhance the experience, it disrupts it. True satisfaction often comes from balance, not excess. It comes from paying attention to signals, adjusting accordingly, and respecting the body's natural responses. If you look closely, comfort and connection are what allow everything else to fall into place. Without them, even the most emphasized physical traits lose their significance. With them, the experience becomes more natural, more responsive, and more aligned with how the body is actually designed to function. And once you start focusing on those elements instead of chasing unrealistic standards, your entire perspective begins to shift. What if the biggest lie you've ever believed about your body is the idea that it's not normal? What if the discomfort, the doubt, the constant second guessing didn't come from reality, but from things you've heard, seen, or assumed over time? It's a powerful question because so many people walk around quietly wondering if something about them is off, when in truth, their body is functioning exactly the way it's supposed to. Here's the problem: most people are never taught what normal actually means. Instead, they're exposed to filtered images, exaggerated stories, and selective information that creates a very narrow and unrealistic definition. And when your understanding of normal is based on that limited view, anything outside of it starts to feel wrong, even when it's completely healthy. But medically speaking, normal is not a single look, size, or response. It's a range, a wide natural variation that accounts for differences in anatomy, hormones, genetics, and life experiences. No two bodies are identical, and they're not meant to be. Variation is not a flaw, it's a fundamental part of human biology. Think about how often people compare themselves to something they've seen online or heard from others. That comparison rarely includes context. It doesn't show the full picture. It doesn't explain the diversity that exists across real bodies. And yet, it's often taken as the standard. That's where insecurity starts to build, not because something is wrong, but because the reference point itself is inaccurate. Now consider this: the body doesn't need to match an image to be healthy. It doesn't need to meet a specific measurement to function properly. What matters is how it works, how it responds, and whether it's maintaining balance. When those things are in place, the body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Another layer to this is how myths get repeated so often that they begin to feel like facts. Over time, those myths shape perception. They influence how people see themselves, even when there's no medical basis behind them. And once that perception sets in, it can be difficult to separate what's real from what's been learned through repetition. But when you start replacing those myths with accurate information, something shifts. You begin to see your body differently. Instead of focusing on how it compares, you start recognizing how it functions. Instead of questioning whether it's normal, you start understanding why it behaves the way it does. And here's something important to hold on to: normal doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean identical. It means within a healthy, natural range. It includes differences. It includes uniqueness. It includes all the variations that make each body individual. The moment you stop chasing a narrow definition and start accepting the broader reality is the moment that pressure begins to lift. Because your body was never meant to fit into a single standard, it was always meant to exist within a spectrum of normal. What if the real source of confidence isn't how your body looks, but how well you take care of it? What if the small, consistent habits you practice every day have a bigger impact than any quick fix or external validation? It's easy to overlook the basics because they don't feel dramatic, but when it comes to your health, the simplest actions often create the strongest foundation. Think about this: your body is constantly working for you, quietly maintaining balance, regulating systems, and responding to changes. But it also depends on how you support it. The choices you make, what you eat, how you rest, how you manage stress, how you maintain hygiene, these are not minor details. They are the building blocks of long-term health and confidence. Now ask yourself, how often do people wait until something feels wrong before they start paying attention? That's a common pattern. Health becomes a priority only when there's discomfort or concern. But true confidence doesn't come from reacting, it comes from proactive care. It comes from knowing that you're doing what your body needs even before problems arise. Take awareness, for example, simply understanding what is normal for your body, its patterns, its signals, its changes can make a huge difference. When you're aware, you can recognize when something shifts. You're not guessing and you're not relying on assumptions. That awareness alone creates a sense of control, and with control comes confidence. Hygiene is another area where simple habits matter more than people realize. The body, especially intimate areas, is designed to maintain its own balance. Overcomplicating care with harsh products or excessive cleaning can actually do more harm than good. Gentle, consistent care supports the body instead of disrupting it. And then there's the role of movement and strength. The pelvic floor muscles, for example, play a key role in support, control, and overall function. Keeping these muscles active through simple exercises can improve not just physical health, but also awareness and confidence. It's not about intense routine sets, about consistency. Stress management is another factor that often goes unnoticed. When stress levels are high, the body reacts. Muscles tighten, hormones fluctuate, and overall comfort can be affected. Taking time to relax, breathe, and reset isn't just mental. It directly impacts how your body functions. Here's something important to understand. Confidence built on external factors can change quickly, but confidence built on self-care is steady. It grows over time. It becomes part of how you carry yourself, how you think, and how you respond to challenges. And the most powerful part, you don't need extreme measures to achieve it. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. Small, intentional actions repeated over time create a strong sense of trust in your own body. Because when you take care of your health, you're not just maintaining your body, you're strengthening your confidence from the inside out. What if the difference between confusion and control comes down to one thing, understanding what's actually happening inside your body? What if the moment you truly learn how your body works is the moment you stop feeling uncertain and start feeling in charge? It's a shift that doesn't happen overnight, but once it begins, it changes the way you see everything. Most people move through life reacting to their bodies instead of understanding them. A sensation feels unfamiliar, a change happens, and immediately there's doubt. Questions come up. Is this normal? Should this be happening? That uncertainty creates hesitation. And hesitation can quietly affect confidence, decisions, and even how you communicate about your own health. But imagine replacing that uncertainty with clarity. When you understand your body's patterns, its signals, its natural responses, you're no longer guessing, you're recognizing, you're interpreting, you're responding with awareness instead of fear. Think about how powerful that is. Instead of relying on outside opinions or assumptions, you have your own internal reference point. You know what feels right for you. You know what's typical for your body. And when something changes, you notice it early, not because you're anxious, but because you're aware. This kind of understanding doesn't just improve knowledge, it changes behavior. When you know why your body responds a certain way, you're more likely to make informed choices. You start asking better questions. You communicate more clearly. You take actions that are based on facts, not guesses. And control in this context doesn't mean forcing your body to behave a certain way. It means working with it. It means respecting its limits, supporting its needs, and recognizing its signals. That kind of control is not rigid, it's responsive. It adapts as your body changes over time. Another important layer is how this understanding affects your mindset. When you feel in control, you're less influenced by external pressure. You're less likely to compare yourself to others or question your normal. You become more grounded because your confidence is based on knowledge, not uncertainty. It also changes how you approach health overall. Instead of avoiding conversations or feeling uncomfortable asking questions, you become more open and proactive. You see learning as a tool, not as something intimidating. And that mindset makes a long-term difference. Here's something worth considering. Every system in your body is interconnected. Hormones, muscles, nerves, circulation, they all work together. When you understand even a part of that system, it helps you make sense of the bigger picture. You begin to see patterns instead of isolated events. And the more you learn, the more that sense of control grows. It's not about knowing everything, it's about knowing enough to feel confident in your own understanding, enough to trust your body instead of doubting it. Because when you move from confusion to clarity, everything else starts to align.